Hi, I'm Patrick Dooley. I'm the Senior Product Manager for GitLab's Ecosystem Group. We're here for the 12.6 kickoff to talk about some of the things that we're going to be working on over the next month. So first up, we had a customer request for an API endpoint to show commit ancestry. So the request was to clone the functionality of Git Rev List, which is a core functionality in Git that's been around for a while that allows you to see a list of SHAs between one commit and another. So this shows you a couple of things. Specifically, they were asking for the topo order flag. So what that does is if you look at the numbering on this list, this is in chronological order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Topo order does it topographically. So instead it would return 8, 6, 5, 3, 7, 4, 2, 1, right? Showing that mapping instead of the chronological order. So we'll make sure in the flags, we're going to be including the topo order flag, adding before and after so you can limit across a span of time. And then it'll respond with a list of SHAs between those two commits. We're also looking to expand our API to have a route for project services that are enabled on a project. So specifically, what that allows us to do is show that overall list, whereas right now we only show the details for one service. So this will enable us to work on some future projects that we've been kicking around. We want to improve the project services UI. So that's the page that's called integrations on a project. That page is pretty simplistic and we'd like to expand it with more information. So this will help us prepare for that. We also want to create an overview for projects that have that service enabled. So for example, getting a list of all of the projects that are using the Jenkins integration at a group level, or all of the Slack integrations being used across an entire instance. So we're starting work on this API route in preparation for other things that we'd like to enable later. We're also looking at unfurling Stack Overflow content in comments. So everybody at this point, I think, should be familiar with this pattern, right? I think this was mostly popularized, or at least credited as being popularized by Twitter. Unfurling links to show richer content has become a really common pattern, and there's a good reason for it. It makes it much more readable in a list of text, right? So if you've just got this link, and Stack Overflow, I think, it can't be understated how valuable Stack Overflow is to developers. I'm sure all of us have at some point copy and pasted an answer out of Stack Overflow and moved on with our lives. So that's a really valuable resource, this little link. And by leaving it as just a link, it's really easy to just pass through. But by making that content richer, it draws the eye of the reader. It makes it easier for them to see if it's valuable, right? So showing the title of the page, showing a description of the page, that'll make it easier for customers to consume. This also sets the stage for some other work we're looking at doing. We've gotten requests for embedding things like Zoom calls, metrics, errors, PagerDuty logs, Salesforce customers, and more. So we've got to start somewhere. So Stack Overflow is a great place to start. This will allow us to create a reusable pattern that we can then start applying to other components where we'd like to unfurl other content. We want to add an edit button to group webhooks. This is a bit of a miss. You can create a webhook and you can test it and delete it, but there's no ability to edit it. So we need to add an edit button for those. Thanks a lot, Sarah, for your contribution. We need to add a remaining project services to our usage ping. In 12.5, we talked about this. We are adding more of the project services to our usage ping data. So in 12.5, we're adding Jenkins, Mattermost, and the custom issue tracker services. Those are complete and are in there now. We want to add more of these services to 12.6. And then over the next few iterations, we're going to continue to add them till all of the project services are represented in usage ping. We talked about this last kickoff, but this is really important data that allows us to see at a high level what people are using, which allows us to prioritize which services need to get the most attention. We have a couple of bugs that had high impact that I wanted to call out specifically. Last activity field is not being updated appropriately when someone's using the API. So users of the UI, in their user object, last activity field's getting updated when they click on things and do things. But if they make calls to the API, that doesn't get reflected. So this is a problem. Obviously, this is already a bug, but it's of particular impact to people who are doing things like automatically deprovisioning inactive users. So a user may appear to be inactive, but if they're using us through the API, they're actually not inactive. And if those get deprovisioned, that could cause some heartache for them. So we need to fix this. And then finally, we've got a problem where the Jenkins service, if it fails to trigger, which could be because it times out, could be other reasons. If it fails to trigger the Jenkins pipeline, it doesn't show an appropriate error. So we need to make sure that we're highlighting that appropriately to our users so that they understand there's a problem and that they can restart that pipeline. So that's it for 12.6. We've got a new person who's joined us on the team. Hi, Andy. Welcome to the team. We've got a product designer who's starting in a couple of weeks. So that's super exciting. So 12.6 is going to be thrilling, and I'll talk to you in a month. Have a good one.